Well, thank you all for coming. Standing with me today, we have Scott Potter, who is the Director of Metro Water Services and the Acting OEM Director. We have Police Chief Steve Anderson, Interim Fire Chief Billy Lynch, Interim Works Director Randy Lovett, Tom Johnstone, who's a weather coordinating meteorologist with the National Weather Service, Joel Sullivan with the Red Cross, and Brian Williams with Hands On Nashville. And I also want to recognize Councilmember Linnell Matthews and thank him for being here. As you well know, we experienced a storm system overnight that caused some isolated flash flooding in the northern part of Davidson County and in neighboring counties. While the flash floods began to quickly recede early this morning, our response to the situation has been ongoing throughout the day, and we continue to monitor the weather very closely. There could be additional rounds of rain the next several days, including this evening and later tonight. At this point, we are not anticipating any additional significant flooding, but as I said, we continue to monitor the situation closely since weather patterns can change, particularly in the northern part of our county. The ground is saturated, and if there is more rain, that could result in additional flash flooding. There's some good news. Both Dry Creek and Whites Creek have begun to recede, which were two waterways that largely contributed to the flash flooding earlier today. Clearly, we take the risk for flooding seriously, and I want to take this opportunity to urge the same of our residents, folks working in Nashville, and our visitors. If you encounter rising water or even standing water covering a roadway, turn around and find an alternate route. There is no way to judge the true depth or strength of floodwaters, and currents can change rapidly during an ongoing flood. Please do not go through standing water on a roadway. If you see water covering a roadway, please call the Metro non-emergency number 862-8600. If you are experiencing a life-threatening situation, of course, call 911. We have been coordinating a unified emergency response since the early morning hours when we first began receiving calls for help from motorists and residents. We responded to 211 calls for water-related incidents. Most of our rescues were from people stranded in vehicles or in homes with rising water. And most of the calls came in this morning before 10 o'clock. Currently, we are receiving very few calls for assistance. At 3 o'clock today, we transitioned the headquarters for our emergency response from an area command in the field to our emergency operations center here. The highly capable team of people behind me and their talented staffs are working hard to keep our citizens safe and address some limited damage to public infrastructure. If you've been affected by today's flood and need somewhere to stay, the Red Cross has set up two shelter locations. Mount Zion Baptist Church, which is open at 7594 Old Hickory Boulevard, and Hadley Park Community Center, which is scheduled to open today at 4 p.m. at 1037 28th Avenue North. Wet items that need to be disposed of can be set on the curb, and you can call 311 to arrange to have them picked up. Metro Codes is currently out doing property damage assessments. Our Emergency Operations Center here will remain activated until there is no longer an imminent threat of additional flooding, and there is no longer a need for a unified response to what has occurred so far. This event is nowhere near the scale of what we experienced with the May 2010 floods, but we are taking all necessary steps to be fully prepared if the situation worsens unexpectedly. There's a Titans game tonight and the first concert in this year's Live on the Green series at the Public Square. As far as we know at this point, both events intend to go on as planned, and it will be a very busy night downtown. The Cumberland River is not at any risk of flooding at this point. However, for all the people traveling to and from these events tonight, especially going home after dark, I once again urge you to be cautious on the roadways where there appears to be flood waters. Know that you could not only put your own life at risk, but the lives of the emergency personnel who will respond to help you. With that, I will open it up for questions, and feel free to ask any of us.
How many people were rescued, or how many rescues?
Well, we've dealt with 211 incidents, and we had one incident, a particular situation this morning where fire personnel and rescue personnel were able to save a 5-month-old baby and get them out of the house and the family. So we're very proud of everything. But that's been the main one that we've been encountered.
Any injuries?
No, not to our knowledge, not so far.
Well, we've had one report of an injury to someone's foot was cut, and I don't know the circumstances.
Do you guys have any initial idea of how many homes were damaged or initial estimates of property damage at this point?
No. As I mentioned, the Codes is out doing property damage assessments right now, and based on those assessments and other information that we'll get over the next few days, we'll be able to provide an estimate of the damages and to know what further steps we need to take as a government and as a city.
You mentioned some limited infrastructure, state infrastructure damage, you know.
Yeah, well, I've heard reports, and Fred Cloud is here from our schools. I know that one school has water in its basement. I think a library received some damage. Clearly, and Randy can talk about this better than I, but there has been damage to roads, and that obviously will require quick repairs, and Public Works is on that.
Any other questions? Yeah, can you talk a little bit about, I know this was not anywhere near the scale of the 2010 flood, but has there been more, from y'all's perspective, cooperation? I know there were a lot of problems, you know, in 2010 with like lack of communication between like the Weather Service and
Well, the Weather Service is right here, and we have been in communication with the Army Corps of Engineers, and since 2010 there has been very good communications amongst all parties, and so we have been talking to everyone, and I'd be happy if you want to ask any questions from a premier weather forecaster that we have here from the National Weather Service. Feel free.
Did you guys see this coming and start getting into action, or was it reactive?
Well, I don't think it was forecast that we would receive this type of rain, and I think one of the things that is particularly important to bear in mind about this particular incident is that if you look at the entire Davidson County area, you have a great portion of the county received somewhere between 1 inch and 2 inches of rain, but in the northern part of the county, Madison, Goodlettsville, Jolton area, some parts of up there received as much as 7.5 inches of rain. So in terms of, this is much more isolated, and so the area of the county that is most affected is in the northern part because it received vastly more rain than the rest of the county.
Speaking of the Madison area, this is from Metro Works.
Public Works?
Public Works, whoever wants to
Randy.
answer this. The folks in the Gibson Creek area said they have been complaining about the problems up there, and look what happened. And
I'm sorry, what area?
the Gibson Creek area in Madison.
I'm
They
sorry,
say
that's
that
going to
they've
be,
been complaining about it. We've also spoken to a number of neighbors who say they've been by different creeks. They've been trying to get to your office and letting you know that there's problems in the flash flooding we've had a lot this summer. A lot of people are frustrated.
I'm going to defer to Mr. Potter. You're discussing stormwater and water issues, not
Okay.
public works
Sorry
issues.
about that.
Yeah.
Key thing to note here is in the Gibson Creek area, there was 7.5 inches of rain in 3 hours. And there's really very difficult to design and operate a stormwater system that's going to respond to an event of that nature. It's a really small drainage basin, and it has one outlet. So it's going to fill up quickly, and it's going to flood if it rains that hard. We just can't design a system that operates that effectively.
Thank you all.